REMIX is back, and with it my best teams video. Today we're gonna dive together into REMIX with 4 teams in total, analyzing their biggest assets, how you can strategize each individual team towards your advantage and overcome those core breakers that might be coming up along the way and up against you, of course. So the REMIX is one of my favorite cups ever in Go Battle League, so I am extra glad to have this format back in action. Let's start off now with the first team showcase out of the total 4, as we're having a mountain up in front and double ground at the back. However, at the same time, this is both an ABB but also an ABA team style with a water type up in front and a water type at the back. Hopefully though, those two water types are gonna cover each other's weaknesses, so we're gonna be looking at a backline that can cover the electric weakness that Mountain is gonna have, and with that in mind, feel free to rotate around your Steelix, able to draw out something that your Quagsire might be afraid of, or just go ahead and protect further your Mountain from those electric types. At the same time, Quagsire is gonna be kinda weak to those grass types, so both the steel typing of Steelix and the flying type of Mountain is gonna help you on that element. The only core breaker, the most solid one that I could find throughout the entire meta, is gonna be Jellicent, so we're gonna be looking at a pretty strong team. So that you can understand more about this team alignment, what you need to do is to have the correct moveset on your Steelix. I recommend going with Dragon Tail as your fast attack, having Psychic Fangs and Crunch as your main charge attacks. With that in mind, you can cover as much as you can from the weaknesses that this team is gonna have, so we're gonna be looking at top team coverage with this first team showcase. So that's gonna be all about team number 1, but I can't wait to showcase team number 2 because we're gonna be looking at some crazy stuff as we're moving up. Now let me ask you something, when was the last time you saw Perrserker as a meta-relevant Pokemon in a Great League format? Well, I do not even remember so today we're gonna be looking at a Perrserker team for Great League REMIX. This one can easily draw the shields out of your opponent, has a quick reaction with those Shadow Claws against various leads, and of course you can always count on it on the safe sweet spot. Up in front we got the bulky option of Mandibuzz, which is a pretty boring Pokemon but pretty effective as well with Snarl, while our closer is Hypno. You can always replace Hypno with Cresselia, but if you decide to keep Hypno around, I recommend actually to keep the moveset that I have over here with Shadow Ball and Thunder Punch. Core breaker of this team is none other than Magnezone, and that's mainly because of its ability to wall down your Mandibuzz, while the backline is never safe from some Shadow wild charges. Overall, this team is very strong and I really recommend to you because of that crazy damage output that it can provide. This might actually be the best team that I have in this list, and I guess that's because of how good those Pokemon can be all together against Great League. So Annihilate up in front is the best fighter in the meta, has access to some pretty lethal moves for a lot of Pokemon, and I guess that at the worst case scenario you can draw at least a shield out of your opponent, which is pretty great if you ask me. So overall at the backline you got some heavy nukes with Fox Blast or Stone Edge from your Regirock, or just go ahead and go for a Shadow Pidgeot so that you can do even more work with some Shadow Brave Birds. I also guess that you can use Shadow Pidgeot as the safe switch for this team because of how much damage it can do with a simple Brave Bird. Even the electric types are not gonna be able to withstand your damage, so Pidgeot is absolutely a beast for Great League REMIX. I also recommend going for Earthquake on your Regirock if you happen to have the legacy move on that Pokemon like I do over here, because unlike Fox Blast, it is gonna give you some extra coverage against certain opponents, and you might actually need that, especially when you're facing something like a Toxapex for example. I think that Regirock has a lot of play on the safe sweet spot, and it's gonna be kind of a popular Pokemon overall. As a core breaker here, Gligar is gonna perform pretty well against our team, and that's mainly because of its flying type, able to destroy down our Annihilate if we are not careful, but you still got some ice punches to draw at least a shield out of them. And of course at the backline it can always destroy down your Regirock with a simple dig if you are not careful, and at the same time it can resist pretty much whatever we throw. The only complete counter to this Pokemon that we have with this team is going to be Pidgeot, but still it is not the most reliable one, because you want to keep Pidgeot for the one-shots, for the end game, and not reveal it that early into the battle. Into another ABA team style, but this time no ABB around. Instead we're gonna be using a pretty good Pokemon, and a cool one that we haven't seen in a while in action, especially as a meta relevant Pokemon, and that is Crafty. Feraligatr up in front is gonna be the biggest winner from this season's move update, and I'm pretty glad that it happened to it, because this is a fan favorite Pokemon with a lot of action by its Shadow Claw and Hydro Cannons. For your second charge attack, feel free to go for Crunch, but I definitely recommend going for the Ice Beam because of that extra coverage against the Flyers, and with Mandibuzz around or Pidgeot, you might actually need that a lot. As a closer, I think that Toxapex is gonna be a bulky one. Not a lot of trainers will be able to throw something that can counter completely your Toxapex in this meta, and even up against some ground types, you still have access to Brine for some cheap damage, while Sludge Wave, I guess, is gonna be your main charge attack to throw at most opponents. As our pivot, as our safe switch, Crafty is gonna emerge here, but with this team you have no real safe pick. The only safe pick that you're gonna have with this line is going to be Feraligatr, so even up against a grass type you really want to stay in there, because the backline might be kinda strong against grasses with your Toxapex, but at the same time you're gonna be looking at the backline that is utilizing two different closers so that you can have the upper hand over your opponents with the shields. So having a Shadow Feraligatr here might be kinda better, to be honest, because it is gonna be much easier for it to draw some shields out so that the backline can make the best out of it, and of course get the victory eventually with that shield advantage. As a core breaker, Emolga of course is gonna emerge here because of the electric typing up against the water types, and the flying acrobatics or the aerial ace for the fighter. However, it is still a pretty manageable Pokemon because of how glassy it can be against the entire meta of Great League REMIX. That is gonna be all for today, trainers. Thank you for watching and for sticking around till the end. Before you go though, leave a huge like, subscribe to my content, and I hope to see you all into the next one.